my name is Halim. I'm a PhD student at Georgetown. I'm entering my third year. I finished my first and second year. I have around 3 more years to go. And I happen to be in Yogyakarta. I happen to be itu terjemahan Indonesia gimana ya? Saya kebetulan lagi ada di Yogyakarta. I never thought of doing this. What brought me to this event was actually my encounter with Mr. Shifa a few weeks ago, or last week, when you had the event with Ayman Shihadeh. I don't know, is there any of you attended the event with Ayman Shihadeh last week? Can you raise your hand if you attended? How many? Raise your hand if you attended the event. 1, 2, 3, you did? Yeah. So it was after that I've been in touch with Mr. Shifa and also Pak Rafiq, yeah, and Dr. Shifa invited me to give this talk, the sharing session. So how to begin? So studying in Islam in the US, I've been doing this since 2016. So I did my undergrad in Paramadina, in Jakarta, in Jakarta, and you know, I think it's better if I show it backward. I'm gonna start with the first slide. Right now, I'm based in Washington, D.C. I'm a student at Georgetown. I received the merit-based scholarship, so scholarship that is given to you based on your merit. If you're good with your previous academic experience, you did a good job, you had a good grades, you might be selected for that. So this scholarship is very it's not for everyone, it's very selective, not everyone can get that, but you have to compete with people worldwide. So in my university alone, at the Department of Arabic and Islamic Studies where I am in, there were only 5 students worldwide got accepted, and I happen to be one of them. So you don't need LPDP actually to have a PhD, to undergo a doctoral program, because once you get accepted in the US universities for doctoral program, normally or usually, not always, your scholarship will be covered fully, unless if you join like part how do you call it, part covering of scholarship, partial scholarship. Like if you apply to AMINEF, then you might have to think about, you know, because they give only half of it, and the other half you're gonna have to find other sources of funding. But I decided from the beginning I didn't take AMINEF, or it's called AMINEF, right? Fulbright AMINEF, yeah.
But it's not full.
Oh yeah, it's so unfortunate. It's so ironic. The name is full, but the scholarship is not full. So yeah, I didn't take Fulbright. I didn't take LPDP. I did LPDP for my master degree, but for my PhD, I'm not taking any external funding. So at that time, this is something that you might be able to do as well. When you are trying to find scholarship, make sure, you know, because it's going to be easier for you in the long run. You have to make sure in the beginning that the PhD program at certain university will cover everything. And I'm glad that Georgetown has that. And it's not only in Arabic and Islamic Studies. They have also offering for other programs as well. In fact, if you apply for economics or public policy, they also have the similar scholarship. For what I have to do to get the scholarship with the monthly allowance is that I contribute at least once a week. I have to teach, so I teach Arabic to undergrad and master students, and some of them are PhD who are beginners in Arabic, in Arabic proficiency. So I teach Usually I grew in pesantren. I spent like around 6.5 years in pesantren. So, have you any of you graduated from pesantren before? Which pesantren? Darussalam Banten. Anyone else? No? Any of you learn Arabic in a traditional way before? Like you would have to memorize fa'ala yaf'ulu fa'lan wa maf'alan. If any of you did that, can you raise your hand? You said, but you didn't raise your hand. Angkat tangan, raise your hand. You did? You do fa'ala yaf'ulu fa'lan? Okay, great. You did too? You too? Where did you learn it if you were not in pesantren? Where? In pesantren or outside pesantren?
Me?
Yeah.
Okay. I learned in pesantren about pulses, about many pulses. For first is adab.
Okay.
Akhlak, and for especially memorize Quran and many more.
Alright, so you went to pesantren before?
Yes, I ever to pesantren just for 2 months because I take memorize Quran only.
Alright, right. So, okay. Alright, cool. So, yeah, what I learned from pesantren was eventually useful for my materials in teaching my undergrad and master students. That's what I do. If there is any other question regarding this, I'm going to go along with the slides that I'm preparing, but if there's any question regarding this, you can ask me later. So in the slides, you can see a page, 2 folios of manuscript, and a picture of me looking at the screen and with a book in front of me, with a manuscript in front of me. Can anyone guess where am I in that picture? Where exactly am I? In a library. I am in a library, but where is the library? It's not in Georgetown, it's Leiden. So, for my study, my focus is intellectual history. What is intellectual history? Intellectual history is study about how thoughts develop over time. We have in Indonesia, you have the theology of Ash'ari, Maturidi, and the jurisprudence of who? Shafi'i, Maliki, Hanbali, Hanafi. But what we have right now is actually a development of the initial stage of the thought. It was Imam Shafi'i who established the way, the madhab, and then thinkers after him try to develop the thought, right? So does the Sufism. Sufism also has the same development over time. So what I'm doing is actually a research on the intellectual history of Sufism, especially on Akbarian Sufism. Akbarian Sufism is a madhab, is a way of Sufism that was established by Muhyiddin, someone named Muhyiddin ibn Arabi, who is from Spain, I think. He was born in Sevilla or Granada, and then he traveled eastward throughout, I think, Egypt and all the way to Syria, and he died in Syria. He died in 1240, if I'm not mistaken, and he lived in the same time with other great Sufis, like Rumi also lived that time. Abu Shihab as-Suhrawardi, the founder of Suhrawardiyah Tariqah, he also lived that time. And we have Fariduddin Attar lived that time, and I think Abdul Qadir Jalani was before. So many great Sufis lived in the 13th century, because it's a mark of something, because it was 7th century after the Prophet. Because the Prophet lived, I think he was born 570 and he died 630, I think, right? 630-ish. So, like 7th century after the Prophet, so many great Sufis were born, including Rumi and Ibn Arabi. And the thoughts of Ibn Arabi came all the way to Indonesia. beginning in the 15th century. 15th century, you would see a tomb, you know, like a tomb itu kayak makam, ada makam, terus kemudian there's an inscription in it with Fakhruddin al-Iraqi. Fakhruddin al-Iraqi is a Sufi who inherit the thought of Ibn Arabi and Rumi, and you can see there is one line of Fakhruddin al-Iraqi's poem inscribed in that tomb, which is found in Aceh. You know. So that's the first mark of the emergence of Sufi, Akbarian Sufi tradition in Indonesia. And after that tomb, there is a scholar who was very well known in Nusantara in Indonesia. His name is Hamzah Fansuri. Hamzah Fansuri died 1527, so it's the 16th century. And after that, many Sufis many Sufi thinkers or Sufi scholars were born, including Yusuf al-Maqasiri, including the controversial Nuruddin Ar-Raniri. Who else? Nuruddin Ar-Raniri, Yusuf al-Maqasiri, Abdul Rauf al-Sinkili, Abdul Samad al-Falimbani, around 17th and 18th century. So my research is focused on the scholars, and especially one scholar among these names that I mentioned is Yusuf al-Maqasiri, who died 1699. So also in the US, when you do an intellectual history, you have to know the passing date of the ulama. You cannot just know the name, but you have to also know when exactly, in what year exactly that person died. It's a culture in the US that we should cultivate here too, because it helps us strengthen our knowledge and connect the ability to connect dots. Because if you don't know their day of passing, you might not be able to identify whether there's a possibility between this ulama and this ulama that have met at a certain point. But if you know the date of passing, there's a possibility because they live in the same time. So it's also something that that is very common among intellectual historian or even social historian in the US. So that's a good thing about studying Islam in the US that I do not really get it here, because when I was in the pesantren, I was never told to do that. You have to memorize the date of the passing date of Shafi'i. No, never. We were never told that. So this is one of the manuscripts that I've been studying. Is there anyone here who can read Arabic? I'd like to challenge you to read a passage of this, if there is any. Okay. Would you like to read any line of this page? Can you read? You don't know how to read?
Coba Mbak, nggak kelihatan dari situ.
Kelihatan? Enggak ya?
Gedein dikit.
So, it's okay to make mistakes, by the way. You don't have to be correct. It's alright. We are all students, so.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.
Yeah. Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahilladzi ja'ala Muhammadan afdala muhtawiyat wa
Afdala makhluqatihi
wa akmalu madhahiri
Good.
Asma'ihi
Good.
wa sifatihi wa sallallahu alaihi wa sallama wa tamma bi barakatihi wa ala ali
Good.
al-dhahir baina wa jami'i.
It's not Lahir, it's Tahir. It's it's a mistake. Al-Tahirina.
Wa ala ali al-dhahirin wa jami'i sahabatihi salatan wa salaman daimaini. Good. Bidawami alaihi wa ayatihi.
Good. Continue.
Wa ayatihi wa fahadihi risalah riwayatil ikhtisar nafi'atal ladhi
lidhawi
lidhawil basirah wal
absar.
Mubayyinatan lisyubhat mabniyatan ala tashbih
Tanbi. I think it's yeah, tanbiha.
سميناها بقرة العين.
بقرة العين. Okay, stop there. Wow. Can you give applause to your friend? That's amazing that she's able to do that. That's good. So it means that there's a possibility for you to continue your study in the US. Because you're able to read. Bismillah. Who knows, inshallah. So yeah, this is a thing that I do in the US. So I deal with a lot of manuscripts, especially those that are written in the 17th century, 18th century Indonesia. But I focus on those that are written in Arabic. And Yusuf al-Maqasiri, the focus of my the subject of my research, he wrote mostly, I never found any of his writing other than in Arabic. He wrote entirely in Arabic. I found around 20 works by him. He wrote in Arabic. Unlike the other scholars like Abdurraf As-Sinkili or Abdul Samad Al-Falimbani or Shamsuddin Sumatrai, they wrote sometime in Jawi. Jawi is like Arabic in script, but Malay in pronouncement. So in Jawi, most of the scholars, other scholars, they wrote in both languages, but Al-Maqasiri only wrote in Arabic, and he is the subject of my research. When I applied to Georgetown, the supervisor, the person who interviewed me, asked, so you want to write about who? Yusuf al-Maqasiri. Oh, I never heard that name. Yes, that's the very reason why I need to study him, so that he can be known among the scholars in the US. And then he asked me, in what language did he write? And I said, Arabic. Okay, you get in. You get accepted. So because my department where I'm in right now, it's called the Arabic and Islamic Studies. So any research should have something to do with Arabic. And then the very background of my study lies in the part that I marked red in the rectangle, red rectangle there. Okay, is there anyone else can read Arabic? Otherwise, I'm going to read it. I'm going to translate it for you. Would you like me to translate it in Indonesian or English? Okay, so in this red part is the background that capture the background story of my research. It reads here. Did you see my? Nggak bisa ya? Oh, bisa ya. Okay, if you begin here, فَكَذَلِكَ كَانَ فِيمَا حَكَاهُ لَنَا الثِّقَةُ مِنْ أَصْحَابِنَا. That is how a trustworthy person among us told us or informed us, مِنْ أَهْلِ تِلْكَ الْبِلَادِ. He is one of the resident of the nation or country, which is Nusantara. So Tilkal Bilad here means Biladu Jawa, or the lands of Java. So back then, among the Arabs, before the word Nusantara was prevalently used, back then in the 17th century, the word that represent Indonesia, Malaysia, and Singapore is Biladu Jawa. It's not Nusantara. Or Jazairu Jawa. And you can find that in many writings of ulama like Al-Qushashi from Medina, Al-Qurani, they wrote with Biladu Jawa. So that's how we were referred to. So someone from the lands of Java informed us about what happened in the land here. من أهل تلك البلاد. This is something, this mark represent, okay, there is a missing phrase, and it is here. أن قائل الكلام المذكور كثره بعض العلماء الواردين في تلك البلاد. Indeed, the aforementioned speaker has been accused of infidelity by someone who came to that land. I'd like to explain in Indonesia. Maybe it's can be easier for you to understand. And so in the 17th century, Inggris lagi. Jadi gini, tahun 1634, I'm gonna mix in Indonesian, okay? So tahun 1634 itu ada seorang ulama datang ke Nusantara namanya Araniri. Pernah dengar nggak? Araniri Aceh. Dia dari Gujarat. Bapaknya Yaman, ibunya Melayu. Menurut spekulasi banyak orang. Kemudian dia datang ke Aceh, dan di Aceh dia itu berinteraksi, berhadapan dengan seseorang yang namanya adalah Kamaluddin Al-Jawi. Pernah dengar? Pernah? Kamaluddin Al-Jawi? Kamaluddin Al-Jawi ini mirip-mirip Siti Jenar. Dia mirip-mirip Al-Hallaj, tapi jarang orang tahu. Kamaluddin Al-Jawi Al-Ashi, dia itu Syekhul Islamnya Aceh sebelum Araniri datang. Nah, ketika si Araniri datang, dia kaget. Kenapa? Karena Araniri from Gujarat, he was surprised about this Syekhul Islam who said, Inna Allah nafsuna wa wujuduna wa nahnu nafsuhu wa wujuduhu. That's the exact word he used. Like you can find this word in the works of Al-Qurani Al-Qashashi, referring to the statement of Al-Jawi. Ya, kalau di Indonesiain, Kamaluddin Al-Jawi bilang, sesungguhnya Allah adalah diri kami dan wujud kami, dan kami adalah dirinya dan wujudnya. Bayangin, ada ulama datang dari Gujarat, kemudian berhadapan dengan Syekhul Islam bilang kayak gitu, kayak orang ngaku-ngaku Tuhan kan? You know what happened to him? Debat. So there were debates going on in the court of Aceh for a few days, and after that, the Sultan at that time, it was Sultan Iskandar Thani. Sultan Iskandar Thani, he's of Pahang origin. He's not from Aceh, but he was adopted by the previous Sultan, Sultan Iskandar Muda, because Sultan Iskandar Muda didn't have any male progeny. So he raised this kid from Pahang. He took it from Pahang, Malaysia, to Aceh, and he raised him, and he made him his son-in-law, and then he became the king after Sultan Iskandar Muda passed away. And then Sultan Iskandar Thani, after seeing the debate between the two ulama, between Raniri and Kamaluddin Al-Jawi, he preferred Raniri. And you know what happened to Kamaluddin Al-Jawi? He was executed. He was slain. And the story is here in this very paragraph. I can read for you. أن قائل المذكور أن قائل الكلام المذكور كفره بعض العلماء الواردين إلى تلك البلاد وارتفع أمرهم إلى السلطان فاستتابوا القائل. And then the story of this Shaykh al-Islam who said that God is me and me is I am God, the matter was brought to the Sultan, and the Sultan said that, okay, execute him. Okay, so he was actually demanded to repent. Dia diminta untuk bertaubat. Kemudian dia nggak mau taubat, si Kamaluddin Al-Jawi ini. Akhirnya karena dia nggak mau bertaubat, apa yang terjadi? Di eksekusi. Tapi yang unik adalah kalau berdasarkan cerita ini ya, falam yatub wa qala kaifa atub. Dia nggak mau taubat. Dia bilang, gimana aku mau taubat? Gimana aku mau taubat? Wala ahada huna ya'rifu ma'na hadzal kalam. Satu orang pun nggak ada yang ngerti yang aku maksud itu apa. Tapi kira-kira apa yang maksudnya? Kalau Allah adalah diriku dan diriku adalah Allah, itu apa kira-kira maksudnya? Nah, walam yasma'u kalamahu fanjarul amru ila an umira bi qatlihi wa qatli man wafaqahu. Sampai kemudian ada perintah untuk ngebunuh dia dan ngebunuh orang-orang yang setuju sama dia. Wa ramahum finnar, dan membunuhnya dengan apa? Dengan melemparkan mereka ke api. Mereka dilempar ke api. Okay? Qala ar-rawi al-thiqa falam yahtarif al-qa'il. Tapi the reporter told me that he was executed via immolation or by throwing them into fire. But according to the report that Al-Qurani received back then, the person who was thrown to the fire, he didn't die, he didn't burn. long story short, so there is a lot to unpack from this story. Banyak sekali yang harus dilacak gitu ya. Ini sejarah yang teman-teman mungkin nggak pernah dengar kan? You never heard this, and this is, like recorded in manuscript. This is the reason why I'm doing intellectual history, because while I am aware that other scholars from like the Western people might be able to do this too, I want to do it from an Indonesian point of view, not from outside point of view. And this is what we need actually in the broader context of Islamic studies in Indonesia. Nobody does the intellectual history of their own, like story, their own history. And I think, well, I have and God gives me the skill of the Arabic language, English. I would like to use all the skills that have been granted to me to go further about this subject. So, in summary, what my subject is about is the transmission of thought from Yemen, Hijaz, India to Indonesia. And if you see the map here, this is how the initial stage of the emergence of Akbarian Sufism into Indonesia. Usually, it began with Persian influence, and after that, in the 16th century, it begins with the Arabic influence. Before that, it was Persian. That's why if you go to Aceh and you see the old tomb, you will find so many inscriptions in Persian. But it's so unfortunate we do like that. We in Indonesia, we do not really have the proper Persian training. Even in the 18th century, I found many manuscripts when the manuscript contained Persian script. They're not written properly in Persian. I know Persian a little bit, but I think it's so unfortunate that Indonesians only learn Islam, from the beginning, only through Arabic, not necessarily through Persian. And these are the setting of my campus in the university. So my university has a masjid too, just like yours. If you see here, this is the masjid, and this is the classes that I am TAing. So I am their teaching assistant. So I teach them Arabic. I teach Arabic once a week. That's how I got scholarship. And this is the picture of me and Professor Jonathan Brown, if you know him. He's quite famous, and he's teaching at my university. So I was invited to share my experience as a Muslim in Indonesia. And this is Seyyed Hossein Nasr. It was last year when we celebrated his birthday. He's a very well renowned scholar, and I think he just it's not I think it's the reality that he retired from teaching. He's not teaching anymore, and he celebrated his retirement, I think, 2 weeks ago. I don't know what video was this. Oh, this is the situation when I TA. Can you hear it? So that's one of my students tried to read Arabic in front of me, and I tried to, review her pronouncement in Arabic. Okay, this is another experience. I don't know if this is relevant to this, but before I went to Georgetown, I was one of the consultant to the special staff of the Minister of Education. So at that time, Nadiem Makarim was the minister, and I was responsible to do some works. What I'm trying to say here is that it was not easy for me to finally return to academic world. For me to find that my call is academic world, I had to go through many things, including I did a policy job. So I was a policy analyst at some point. I was a communication strategist at some point, and I was a curriculum designer at some point. So I was involved in many part of Kementerian Pendidikan before eventually I returned to the academic world. So that's one of my works before I went to Georgetown for my PhD. So at that time, I tried to encourage the students in under national school, sekolah negeri itu apa sih? Public school. You know, I try to encourage people, students in public school and schools under the Ministry of Education to embrace differences in their institution. Okay, so you know, maybe I just show very briefly about my biography. So I was a santri in Kediri, and then I won many competitions when I was there, and then I moved to Tulung Agung. I did 2 years of undergrad there, but I didn't finish. And then I won a competition like until I reached the province level, Musabaqah Fahmil Quran. So I know many Quranic verses and hadith and stuff like that. But I was also working at the Grand Mosque of Tulung Agung. So I became the tukang parkir. How do you call tukang parkir in English? So I became tukang parkir because at that time I didn't know what to do. And after that, I got a scholarship. I moved to Jakarta for my undergrad. And throughout my undergrad journey, I traveled overseas many times for a student exchange. And after that, I got a scholarship from LPDP, and I studied at George Washington before finally go back to Indonesia and work for the Ministry of Education, and then back to the US. This is a picture of me and Seyyed Hossein Nasr when I was at George Washington doing my master program. And this is when I was in Paramadina, and these are friends in George Washington University. So, you know, if you want to study abroad, there's another forum right there, very loud. You're very loud forum. So, if you want to study abroad, one thing that you need to make sure is that you hang out, spend time with friends from the US. The problem with many Indonesian students that I see is that when you hang out only with Indonesians, your English skill is not developing because you only speak in Indonesian. It's a very comfort zone. I found this many in my friends. So if you have any plan to do that, to do a master or doctoral program, make sure that you spend time with your friends from you know, like the international students instead. So, and other things that I would like to convey when you try to decide what you're gonna do, make sure that it is something that you like, because you only live once. YOLO, you call it, right? You only live once. So make sure you do something that you like. Do not do things because your parents told you to do so. You do things because you love what you are doing. Bekerja sesuai ikigai means mengerjakan sesuatu untuk memenuhi tujuan keberadaan kita di dunia. That's what brought me all the way from education to from doing Islamic studies since beginning, and then I went to Ministry of Education. I did policy, I did communication, I did curriculum, only to find that I actually am here for Islamic studies. Because when I do that, I don't feel like I am burdened by work. I love what I'm doing, and that's what we need to have when we are studying, when we live in the world. I think that's all. Thank you.